When you look at the landscape of modern cinema, there are certain actors who don't just, play a role.
Right.
They essentially build a whole new person from the ground up, and they demand your attention and sometimes even your discomfort.
And Joaquin Phoenix is the absolute epitome of that actor.
He is. He's widely, and I think rightly, described as one of the preeminent artists of his generation.
Well, absolutely. And the accolades, I mean, they just back that claim up completely. We're talking about an Academy Award, 2 Golden Globes, a BAFTA.
The Volpe Cup from Venice, the Cannes Best Actor Prize.
And maybe the most unusual one for an actor, a Grammy Award for his soundtrack work.
He's basically captured nearly every major artistic honor out there.
He really has.
But what's so fascinating to me is the sheer contradiction in all that success.
How so?
Well, you have this profoundly intense artist, right? He's known for playing these dark, unconventional, often eccentric characters.
Commodus, Freddie Quell, the Joker.
Yeah. And yet the man himself is intensely private. He's fundamentally skeptical of celebrity culture, and he's also a world-leading, fervent animal rights activist.
That duality, that's what defines him as much as any performance. It truly creates this paradox that, well, it requires a deep dive.
Exactly. So for this, we've synthesized a really comprehensive set of sources, including a detailed biography of his life and career.
And our mission today is to take you beyond just the award speeches. We want to connect the dots.
Right. How did his unique family background, his early trauma, how did that shape his commitment to his roles?
And how do his profound moral convictions, especially his activism, how do they inform his artistry?
What the sources show right away is that his career isn't a straight line at all. It's more like a series of distinct phases.
Built through these almost symbiotic, frequent collaborations with specific directors. James Gray, Lynn Ramsey, Ari Aster.
But the initial core takeaway is crucial. His entire public life, right down to the names he's used, is rooted in this almost defensive anti-celebrity stance.
He's deliberately unconventional because he believes fame is, well, dangerous.
And to understand that defensive posture, we absolutely have to start with the circumstances of his birth and that extraordinarily unique childhood. So Joaquin Rafael Bottom was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico on October 28, 1974.
And he was the third of 5 children. You have River, Rain, Joaquin, Liberty, and Summer.
And all 5 of them, plus his paternal half-sister, Jodian, would eventually find themselves in the entertainment industry. It was a really tight-knit clan.
A clan defined by movement and just pure unconventionality.
We have to look at the ancestry to really understand the foundation of this globe-trotting family.
Yeah, his father, John Lee Bottom, was a Catholic from California with English, German, and French roots.
And his mother, Arlen, she was of Ashkenazi Jewish descent with a Russian Jewish grandfather and a Hungarian Jewish grandmother.
So you get this really rich, diverse genetic and cultural mix that sort of defined the family's early identity.
And that globe-trotting wasn't, for tourism, it was part of a religious quest.
Right. His parents met while they were hitchhiking in California, and they soon joined this controversial religious cult known as the Children of God.
So for a time, the entire family traveled throughout the Caribbean and South America as missionaries for the group.
And this is such a critical period that often just gets referenced really quickly. The family lives in all sorts of conditions, sometimes in relative poverty, just constantly moving.
They were completely immersed in the cult's dogma.
Until Arlen and John became completely disillusioned. And this disillusionment, it wasn't abstract. They left the cult in 1977 because they were so strongly opposed to the increasingly questionable rules.
Specifically, the source material points to the practice of flirty fishing.
Oh.
For listeners who may not be aware, that term needs some context because it was a really dark turning point for the family.
That's right. Flirty fishing was the Children of God's practice of sexual solicitation, mostly by female members.
It was used to recruit new members, or critically, to raise funds for the group.
It was essentially religiously sanctioned prostitution or manipulation. And when Joaquin's parents realized the disturbing nature of this, the moral compromises being made,
they made the abrupt decision to just pull the children out and flee. They prioritized the safety and well-being of their young family.
That moment, escaping the cult and settling in Florida, was treated like a profound rebirth.
And to symbolize this new beginning, like the mythical bird rising from its own ashes, they legally adopted the surname Phoenix.
It's the ultimate statement, isn't it? Shedding a troubled past and defining a new legacy for yourself.
But even with that new surname, Joaquin felt the need for his own personal rebrand, even as a kid.
Yeah, he noticed his older siblings, River and Rain, had these nature-based names.
So during his early childhood, he adopted the name Leaf Phoenix, and he used Leaf professionally right up until the early 1990s.
This subtle sign that he was, searching for a way to fit into this already established kind of famous family dynamic.
And the sources confirm it was actually his older brother, River, who eventually encouraged him to shed the alias and go back to his birth name, Joaquin.
He suggested that he needed to stand in his own identity. It was a foundational lesson in authenticity for him.
That quest for identity transitioned immediately into his career.
Right. Once the family settled in Los Angeles, their mother, Arlen, she found work as an executive secretary at NBC.
And that led to a key connection with a high-profile child agent named Iris Burton.
And Burton helped all the Phoenix children start working, first in commercials and then in small parts.
Joaquin, still known as Leave at the time, made his professional acting debut in the 1982 television series 7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
And he later reflected on this first experience with this really remarkable memory. He called it instantaneous joy.
He actually talked about that debut, saying, the physical sensation, how powerful it was. For some kids, it's the first time they crack a ball or score a goal. For me, it was this.
He was 8 years old, and he said he remembered the first scene on the TV set so vividly. He just knew that he loved it.
It gives you a crucial insight, doesn't it? For him, acting wasn't a path to fame.
No, it was a pure, joyful, almost physiological experience.
He had several other key early roles as Leaf Phoenix, including the adventure film Space Camp in 1986.
And most significantly, in Ron Howard's 1989 ensemble comedy drama Parenthood. He played Gary, the sensitive, withdrawn teenage nephew dealing with anxiety.
And that Parenthood performance has this tremendous legacy within the industry itself.
It's true. When Leonardo DiCaprio was later cast to play the same character for the TV series adaptation, our sources confirmed that DiCaprio studied Phoenix's original film performance meticulously.
Just to get it right.
Yeah, that speaks volumes about the emotional depth Phoenix was bringing to the screen, even as a teenager in a secondary role.
But then the shadow of a defining tragedy soon derailed his path. By the early 90s, after a string of child roles, Phoenix felt disillusioned.
So he took a break. He traveled to Mexico with his father to learn Spanish.
When he returned, it was River who convinced him to drop the name Leaf, become Joaquin again, and return to the industry.
Then came the devastating, career-altering blow. On Halloween night, October 31st, 1993, River Phoenix collapsed from a drug overdose outside the Viper Room nightclub in West Hollywood.
And Joaquin, who was only 19 at the time, was present. He was the one who made that now infamous, anguished 911 call to desperately seek help for his dying brother.
And this is where the private trauma became a public spectacle that would just indelibly mark his future.
That 911 phone call, that moment of ultimate private family grief, it wasn't just recorded.
No, it was repeatedly broadcast and analyzed across news channels, radio programs.
It violated their mourning process with, just absolute cruelty.
And the sources confirmed the family immediately retreated to Costa Rica just to escape the suffocating media glare.
Phoenix later described how that relentless, almost mythological media coverage severely impeded the family's ability to mourn and process the tragedy.
This profound, violent intrusion into his most vulnerable moment.
Yeah.
It created the blueprint for his lifelong distrust of the celebrity machine.
That media paradox we mentioned earlier, it was forged right here.
It's just fascinating how that single, horrific, private moment, the broadcast of that 911 call, created the defensive, anti-celebrity posture that would define the next 30 years of his career.
That intense pressure and the desire for privacy, it meant his eventual return to acting had to be deliberate. It had to be artistic and protected.
Exactly. And we can cleanly delineate his adult career into 4 distinct phases that really reflect his shifting priorities.
So, Phase 1, the return and discovery from 1994 to 1999. His comeback vehicle, after his period of retreat, was Gus Van Sant's dark 1995 comedy To Die For.
Which was a film inspired by the real-life Pamela Smart murder case.
Right, and Phoenix starred as Jimmy Emmett, the disturbed, vulnerable, and ultimately manipulated young man who was seduced into murder by Nicole Kidman's character.
The critical reception was immediately enthusiastic, focusing heavily on Phoenix's maturity and his emotional vulnerability.
The New York Times critic Janet Maslin singled him out. She praised Jimmy Emmett as rivetingly played by Mr. Phoenix with a raw, anguished expressiveness that makes him an actor to watch for.
And that phrase, raw, anguished expressiveness, it just perfectly captured the visceral, unfiltered quality that became his trademark.
It distinguished him from the typical leading man.
He spent the rest of this phase proving his range. He took on these varied roles, like a small-town troublemaker in Oliver Stone's 1997 neo-noir U-Turn.
And a romantic lead in Inventing the Abbots that same year.
We also see him navigating the studio system with the box office hit, though it was critically divisive, 8mm in 1999.
And a quick sidebar on Inventing the Abbots. He dated his co-star, Liv Tyler, from 1995 to 1998. It was a relationship that remained deeply private.
And it's one of the few long-term connections he made with a colleague that has persisted. They're still close friends today.
Which brings us to phase 2, critical acclaim and commercial success, from 2000s to 2010.
This phase begins with his massive commercial and critical breakout. Ridley Scott's historical epic Gladiator in 2000. He played the fictionalized Roman Emperor Commodus.
The film was a global phenomenon. It grossed $457 million worldwide. But Phoenix's portrayal of Commodus was so much more complex than a standard historical villain.
Yeah, he portrayed him as fundamentally spoiled, insecure, and just desperate for the love and approval of his father, Marcus Aurelius.
He completely subverted the typical evil emperor trope.
And this performance earned Phoenix his first set of major nominations, the Academy Award, Golden Globe, and BAFTA, all for Best Supporting Actor.
But what truly makes this historical is the family achievement.
That's right. With that nomination, Joaquin and River Phoenix became the first and only set of brothers ever to be nominated for Acting Academy Awards. That legacy is permanent.
Critics really recognize the depth. Chris Nashawati argued that Phoenix's work in Gladiator was actually a more nuanced star-making performance than Russell Crowe's.
He described Commodus as a richly layered study of pathology.
And this period immediately introduced these crucial collaborations. The year 2000 also saw the first of his ongoing defining partnership with director James Gray in The Yards.
And even though that prime drama had poor box office, Phoenix's turn as the villain was highly praised.
It established him as an actor that directors would turn to when they needed that unconventional menace.
His combined efforts in 2000, the commercial success of Gladiator and the critical darling The Yards, it led to major wins at the Broadcast Film Critics Association and the National Board of Review.
It basically confirmed he was a serious player who could deliver both blockbuster and art house performances.
And he successfully navigated mainstream Hollywood next. He starred in M. Night Shyamalan's highly profitable horror films, Signs, in 2002, and The Village in 2004.
And even in a commercial film like Signs, where he played the former baseball star Merrill Hess, critics like Peter Travers noted Phoenix registers impressively, finding the humor and the pain in this lost boy.
He just brings depth, even when the genre doesn't necessarily demand it.
But the defining role of Phase 2 was the musical biopic Walk the Line in 2005, where he portrayed the iconic Man in Black, Johnny Cash.
And this film was a financial smash, grossing $186 million, and it earned Phoenix multiple major awards.
His commitment to this role became legendary.
Oh, absolutely. Phoenix didn't lip sync. He insisted on singing all of Cash's demanding vocal tracks himself, both in the film and on the soundtrack.
He just immersed himself in guitar playing and vocal training until his voice was rough and authentically close to Cash's.
The preparation was so successful that when Roger Ebert reviewed the film, he was, in his words, gobsmacked. He initially was convinced he was listening to Cash's actual voice on the soundtrack.
That is the ultimate validation of his approach, isn't it? The complete erasure of himself in the service of the character.
For this work, he won the Golden Globe for Best Actor, got his second Oscar nomination, this time for Best Lead Actor.
And he clinched that highly unusual award for an actor, the Grammy Award for Best Compilation Soundtrack, a testament to his musical contribution.
Now, if Walk the Line was the peak of his commercial acclaim,
the immense pressure and scrutiny that came with it directly fueled his next, most unconventional act, the mockumentary I'm Still Here in 2010.
This was performance art as social critique. During the promotion for his 2008 film, Two Lovers, Phoenix announced his retirement from acting to embark on a career as a serious hip-hop artist.
And he stayed entirely in this elaborate character for 2 full years.
This included that famous, genuinely erratic appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman, where he was bearded, sullen, and just seemed hostile.
The media chaos was deafening. I mean, many people, including major news outlets, genuinely believed Phoenix was having a severe mental breakdown.
Some publications were overtly worrying he was repeating the self-destructive, tragic path of his brother.
But the creators, Phoenix and his then brother-in-law, director Casey Affleck, later revealed their purpose.
They sought to expose and critique celebrity culture and the media's ravenous relationship with consumers. They were genuinely astonished that people consumed the spectacle of his apparent breakdown.
While at the same time believing that the narratives on reality television were somehow unscripted or real.
It's the ultimate irony, right? The actor who so fiercely guards his own reality chose to inhabit a constructed reality to expose the media's hunger for breakdown.
The sources suggest this extreme immersion was incredibly liberating for him.
Yeah, Phoenix later credited the film for allowing him to take far bolder, more risky choices in the roles that followed.
Which brings us directly to Phase 3. Established career and continued acclaim from 2011 to 2019.
And this is where Phoenix became known primarily for these intensely complex character studies, often driven by auteur directors.
This phase opens with the Paul Thomas Anderson film, The Master, in 2012. He played Freddie Quell, a deeply traumatized World War II Navy veteran.
He's struggling to find footing in post-war life and falls under the sway of a mysterious religious movement leader.
The physical commitment here was, staggering. It reflects the actor's need to find grounding in the mechanics of the performance.
Not only did he lose a significant amount of weight, but he worked with a dentist to force his jaw shut on one side, mimicking a specific, tense physical trait his own father exhibited.
He internalizes and manifests these character traits physically in ways that few others do.
That deep dive into the character's psyche and physicality earned him the Volpe Cup for Best Actor at the Venice Film Festival,
which he shared with his legendary co-star Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he got his third Academy Award nomination.
And the internal praise from the industry was equally remarkable.
It's often forgotten, but Daniel Day-Lewis, an actor equally famous for his intense method commitment, publicly lauded the remarkable Phoenix during his own Screen Actors Guild acceptance speech.
He expressed genuine surprise that Phoenix had not been nominated for the same award. That is the highest form of peer respect you can get.
The next role showcased his immense range. The unconventional romantic lead, Theodore Twombly, in Spike Jonze's 2013 sci-fi drama, Her.
He plays a man who falls genuinely in love with an artificial, disembodied operating system, voiced by Scarlett Johansson.
This role was so challenging because he had nothing physical to act opposite. All the connection, the insecurity, the yearning, the vulnerability.
It all had to be externalized by Phoenix alone. And critics were effusive. A.A. Dowd called him one of the most emotionally honest actors in Hollywood.
Despite that critical praise and the unique difficulty of the role, it became famous for being overlooked by the Academy.
It was widely considered a significant Oscar snub by numerous journalists.
It just highlights that tension between complex, subtle performances and those that fit neatly into awards categories.
He continued challenging and redefining cinematic manhood, as Justin Chang observed, through roles like the drug-addled detective in Inherent Vice.
And then came his Cannes triumph in 2017 for Lynn Ramsey's psychological thriller, You Were Never Really Here.
He played Joe, a traumatized former FBI agent who rescues trafficked children. He won the Cannes Film Festival Award for Best Actor.
And again, the physical commitment was tailored to the role. He gained significant muscle and weight, and his preparation involved working closely with a former bodyguard who specialized in rescuing children from exploitation.
All to ensure the emotional and physical weight of the character felt authentic.
Director Lynn Ramsey was incredibly complimentary, referring to Phoenix as my soulmate in making movies.
It just further emphasizes that his greatest success has come through this profound trust and collaboration with a singular director's vision.
And finally, the role that cemented his global star power and delivered his ultimate Oscar win, Joker, in 2019.
The commitment was absolute. For the role of Arthur Fleck, Phoenix undertook another radical physical transformation, losing 52 pounds.
He spent significant time perfecting that unsettling signature laugh, basing it remarkably on videos of people suffering from pathological laughter.
It was a deeply researched physical and psychological commitment.
The film itself was polarizing due to its dark tone, the portrayal of mental illness, and the fears that it might inspire real-life violence.
Yet Phoenix's performance was universally applauded, described as dazzling, risky, and original, and the undisputed must-see factor.
The result was a clean sweep of the 2020 awards season. He won the Academy Award, the Golden Globe, the BAFTA, and the SAG Award for Best Actor.
It confirmed his status as an actor who can carry a massive, culturally resonant film entirely on the strength of his transformative performance.
Which leads us to Phase 4, recent work and collaborations, 2020 to the present, where he continues to work almost exclusively with auteurs.
In 2020, the New York Times recognized this consistency, naming him one of the 25 greatest actors of the 21st century.
And this phase is marked by continued collaborations with high art production houses like A24. In 2021, he starred in Mike Mills's Come On, Come On as Johnny, a radio journalist.
This was a rare, warm, empathetic role, praised for operating at an emotional register we rarely see from Phoenix. He was stripped of that grand physicality and intense pathology.
He then immediately veered back into the strange and dark, reuniting with Ari Aster for the surrealist black tragicomedy Beau is Afraid in 2023.
He received his 7th Golden Globe nomination for that role, which critics praised for demonstrating a startling level of vulnerability. He's perfected the art of the anxious, neurotic, wounded man.
He also took on another massive historical figure, reuniting with director Ridley Scott for Napoleon in 2023.
And while the film itself drew mixed reviews, especially from French critics who found the historical accuracy wanting Phoenix was undeniably the powerful centerpiece of the drama.
He portrayed the French emperor with this mixture of childlike petulance and ruthless ambition.
And we have to touch on the most recent news, as it provides crucial context for our final analysis.
Yeah, his highly anticipated 2024 sequel, Joker, Folie à Deux, co-starring Lady Gaga, was released to disastrous reception.
It emerged as a profound critical and commercial failure, projected to lose a massive $150 to $200 million in its theatrical run.
That failure is a huge data point. It shows that even the most acclaimed, award-winning performance doesn't guarantee future success, especially when you're taking major artistic risks.
Looking ahead, he is set to reunite with Lynn Ramsey and his partner Rooney Mara for the Project Polaris, and is also expected to work again with Ari Aster for Eddington in 2025.
His career just continues to prioritize the director's unique, often dark vision over safe commercial bets.
So if we look at the whole arc of his career, we come back to that tension, that media paradox.
Right. The first decade of his adult career was spent squarely in the shadow of River Phoenix. The media constantly referred to him as the second most famous Phoenix.
And his deep-seated distrust of the media is directly traceable back to 1993 and the repeated, violating broadcast of his 911 call.
He felt those constant questions about the tragedy in the years after were inherently insincere and actively impeded the family's ability to mourn privately.
This experience just made him hostile to the transactional nature of celebrity journalism.
And yet, people who meet him privately are often surprised by the contrast with his screen persona.
Anderson Cooper described Phoenix as wry, shy, and couldn't be any more friendlier, but immediately added the caveat that Phoenix intensely dislikes discussing himself or his internal life.
And this contrast is essential for understanding his work. Director James Gray reinforces this, noting that the man off-screen is very tender and sweet and sensitive.
Gray believes Phoenix channels his emotional intensity, maybe his darker or more anxious side into his characters, using the work as a necessary outlet.
This analysis leads us to the heart of his unique acting style. He is universally described as one of the finest actors of his generation.
Film historian Leonard Maltin called him a true chameleon who commands the screen and breaks your heart.
And Justin Chang emphasized how Phoenix, with his hard gaze and that distinctive scar on his lip, challenges and redefines what we expect of cinematic manhood.
The defining trait of his process is commitment, an intense, consuming preparation that often blurred the lines between fiction and reality, as was meticulously proven by the 2-year I'm Still Here hoax.
He immerses himself completely, often physically transforming his body or his posture.
But this isn't standard method acting, and this is where the nuance is so essential.
Garth Davis, who directed him in Mary Magdalene, specifically stated that Phoenix does not apply method acting in a rigid, technical sense.
Davis's quote is key. He compared working with Phoenix to working with this beautiful wild animal, requiring space and minimal instruction for a raw, uncontrived, and truly natural performance.
So if a director tries to overly structure the scene or define the motivation too rigidly,
Davis said, Phoenix smells the design of the scene and you lose his free spirit.
that wild animal analogy is incredibly revealing. It suggests that his genius comes not from meticulous rehearsal or technical method, but from instinct.
From emotional intelligence and a profound sensitivity that allows him to exist authentically within the character's emotional framework, just reacting spontaneously.
We see this tension played out in the preparation. He might spend months developing specific physical traits like the weight loss for Joker or forcing his jaw shut for the Master.
But once he's on set, he needs freedom to act purely on intuition. The preparation is the vessel. The performance is the spontaneous eruption.
This naturally connects back to his career choices. If he needs this level of artistic freedom, he has to choose partners who will protect it.
And he's been extremely clear about his priorities. He prefers independent films over major studios, citing that large studio films often lead to a suffering quality in acting due to commercial compromises.
He maintains that he relies solely on the director, prioritizing a filmmaker with a unique vision and voice regardless of the film's genre or budget.
He sees the director as the protector of the work, the one who establishes the safe space for the actor to take risks.
But let's bring in a point of skepticism, because
Yeah.
this is where the paradox gets thorny.
Okay.
If he disdains the machine of celebrity culture and the transactional nature of Hollywood so intensely, how do we reconcile his continued participation in massive commercial studio projects like the two Joker films, which elevated him to global meme-worthy superstar status?
Or the Ridley Scott epic Napoleon. That's the exact tension he has to navigate. It seems he compromises on the budget and scale working in big studio films only when the director attached has unique enough vision to justify the risk.
Todd Phillips for Joker and Ridley Scott for Napoleon are undeniably powerful auteurs.
They give him the creative latitude he demands, even on a massive canvas. It's a strategic trade-off. Fame is the price of working with the best visionaries.
And he traces the very origin of that drive for deep internal truth back to his late brother.
Yeah, he explicitly credited River for compelling him to return to acting after his brief break. River made him watch Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull twice.
Which Phoenix said awakened something in me.
And crucially, he cited Robert De Niro, the star of Raging Bull, as one of his favorite actors and strongest influences.
He doesn't just admire De Niro's intensity. He looks for the kind of small, beautiful details that De Niro uses. The subtle gesture, the momentary flicker of doubt or pain.
He's always searching for that essential, truthful, and often uncomfortable moment of humanity in the performance.
And if that intensity defines his professional life, then his lifelong commitment to animal rights defines his moral conviction.
Activism is not a secondary interest for him. It is unquestionably a core pillar of Joaquin Phoenix's life.
His commitment is rooted in a childhood experience, long before the family became famous. He has been vegan since he was 3 years old.
The sources detail that the conversion happened after he and his older siblings were on a fishing boat and witnessed fish being brutally killed.
Specifically, they were throwing them against the side of the boat to stun them.
This was a deeply visceral, shared trauma for the siblings, and it prompted the entire family to adopt a vegan lifestyle simultaneously.
Phoenix later stated, "It was a really intense moment. It made me realize that we were complicit in this violence and we couldn't be anymore."
And this personal belief actively impacts his professional decisions to this day. He strictly does not wear animal skin.
And he requests that all his film costumes, whether they're period pieces or modern clothing, be made from synthetic materials only. He doesn't compromise his ethics for the craft.
His message has broadened significantly over time, too. He maintains that animal rights are one of the most important pillars in his life.
And he is extremely vocal in linking industrialized meat consumption directly to climate change and broader health issues. He has repeatedly stated that climate change is imminent if we do not adopt a plant-based lifestyle.
Animal rights groups recognize his unparalleled dedication. PETA named him Person of the Year in 2019.
With PETA's president stating that Phoenix never misses an opportunity to turn the spotlight away from himself and onto animals' plight.
His focus has often been on what he calls a neglected cause, the suffering of fish.
Which he considers the last thing besides insects that people don't really consider.
He went to the extreme measure of simulating drowning in a 2013 PETA spot just to dramatize the final terrifying moments of suffering fish endure when pulled from the water.
This commitment also led him to provide narration for several key documentaries, significantly amplifying their message.
These include Earthlings in 2005, for which he won a humanitarian award, Unity in 2015, and Dominion in 2018.
Which activists hailed as one of the most powerful documentaries ever made for its unflinching look at factory farming.
But perhaps his most surprising influence came during the 2019-2020 awards season, which the sources describe as this dramatic period of behind-the-scenes lobbying.
He drove a movement that transformed 5 major award ceremonies to feature exclusively plant-based menus.
This wasn't a public protest, it was strategic influence. He personally pitched the direct link between meat agriculture and climate change to the presidents of the award shows.
Often accompanied by signatures from high-profile nominees like Leonardo DiCaprio.
And the Golden Globes, the Critics' Choice, the SAG Awards, and later the main Academy Awards all made significant changes to their food service because of his quiet, direct engagement.
He leveraged his celebrity not to promote himself, but to shift policy.
And the culmination of this high-profile commitment came immediately after his biggest win.
A day after winning his Academy Award for Joker and delivering a powerful emotional acceptance speech that focused on the plight of mother cows and their babies, he followed up with action.
That's right. He literally went straight from the Oscar stage to the field, helping to rescue a mother cow and her newborn calf from a Los Angeles slaughterhouse.
And he relocated them to Farm Sanctuary. This act, caught on video, dramatically underscored that his acceptance speech was not just rhetoric.
It was a statement of his moral life philosophy.
His activism also extends to broader social and political issues. In 2020, he was arrested alongside Jane Fonda at a climate change protest in Washington, D.C.
And he focused his speech entirely on the link between animal agriculture and climate change.
He has also engaged in political pledges regarding international conflicts. He was a signatory of the Film Workers for Palestine Boycott Pledge in September 2025.
And signed open letters calling for a ceasefire during the Gaza war in both 2023 and 2025, consistently condemning the killing of all Palestinian and Israeli civilians.
Furthermore, he collaborated with Justice LA on a PSA, #SuingToSaveLives, to highlight the health crisis faced by people in LA County jails during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic.
It shows his concerns extend to criminal justice reform and human rights.
Moving to his personal life, he has a few interesting quirks that help round out the picture of this intense individual.
He describes himself as a secular Jew who does not affiliate with organized religion, though he emphasizes that one of his core values is forgiveness.
A concept, he says, was profoundly impacted by portraying Jesus in the film Mary Magdalene.
One of the most incredible, almost cinematic anecdotes about his private life dates back to 2006.
After his car flipped on a winding canyon road due to brake failure, Phoenix managed to escape, shaken and confused.
And he instinctively went to light a cigarette near leaking gasoline, when someone tapped on the window, calmly telling him to relax and stopping him from striking the match.
That someone was none other than the legendary German auteur filmmaker Werner Herzog, who happened to be driving by.
Herzog helped extract Phoenix from the wreck by breaking the back window.
Phoenix later described the bizarre, life-saving encounter, noting that the man who rescued him seemed utterly unconcerned, yet completely in control. It sounds like something straight out of a Werner Herzog film itself.
It really does.
He also checked himself into rehab for alcoholism in 2005, which generated significant media attention.
However, he later clarified that he saw himself more as a hedonist during that period who wasn't engaging with the world properly, rather than someone suffering from a critical addiction.
So he sought help to recalibrate his relationship with living, not necessarily to combat a physical dependence.
On the family front, he resides in the Hollywood Hills with his partner, Rooney Mara. They met on the set of Her Dig and began dating during the filming of Mary Magdalene.
They have 2 children, a son, River, born in 2020 and named after his late brother, and a daughter, Sparrow, born in 2024.
And in 2024, Phoenix publicly referred to Mara as his wife.
He is a man who embraces the unexpected. He holds a black belt in karate.
And lists some of his favorite relaxation techniques as meditating and reading scripts, showing that even his downtime revolves around self-control and preparation for his next act.
And to wrap up his unusual legacy, his fame and his roles have literally entered the animal kingdom.
That's right. 2 animal species have been named after him. A trilobite species named Gladiatoria phoenix, referencing his role in Gladiator.
And a strikingly colored spider species endemic to Iran named Laridia phoenixi, often referred to as the Joker spider, due to its color pattern matching the character's makeup. So we've taken the full measure of Joaquin Phoenix's journey from leaf bottom, traveling with the children of God, through the devastating public trauma of River's death,
to his ascent as a celebrated, unconventional Oscar winner who continues to defy expectation.
What is undeniably clear is that his private life, the intense commitment, the deeply ingrained skepticism of fame, and the profound decades-long activism It's not simply adjacent to his career.
No, it is the root system that fuels the raw, uncontrived essence of his screen presence.
It creates characters that feel truthful precisely because he is so insistent on living a truthful life off-screen.
His career path is a masterclass in prioritizing the artistic foundation over commercial success.
He is the actor who explicitly states he chooses a director over a genre, seeing the filmmaker's unique vision as the foundational safe space for his greatest work.
Whether that's the crime dramas of James Gray or the surrealism of Ari Aster.
It leads us back to a final, highly pertinent insight, especially considering the volatility of modern media.
Phoenix dedicated his mockumentary, I'm Still Here, to publicly criticizing the concept of performance art being mistaken for reality, while simultaneously lobbying behind the scenes to change global food systems.
He's obsessed with distinguishing truth from performance.
So here is something for you to mull over as you consume the next piece of media. We have observed his career take enormous risks, often requiring him to inhabit the absolute extremes of human psychosis and despair.
Given the immense success of the first Joker and the staggering commercial and critical failure of its sequel, Folie à Deux, does the modern audience now demand a level of visible, transparent authenticity?
An expectation that actors must be likable, relatable, and constantly available.
That ultimately stifles the bold, risky, and truly uncontrived performances that directors like James Gray and Lynn Ramsey rely on.
It's the central tension of his life. The private man who needs to take spectacular public risks. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the compelling world of Joaquin Phoenix.
We'll catch you next time.